Good morning. In all my videos, and I've over 900 now, I've tried to be non-divisive and non-confrontational. But when we're dealing with the whole EU debate, you're either in, you're undecided, or you're out. And people in the inside camp and the outside camp, those who want to remain and those who want to leave, they have strong opinions. And I make no apology for having strong opinions. And here they are. And I'm just going to read what I have written here already. And I'll try and keep it simple. The EU in-out debate. Years ago, my wise old mum used to warn and advise me, if you really wanted to know about a potential friend's true character, you look keenly at who they had as friends. And bearing this in mind, here are some of the notable names who want to stay in the EU. Cameron, Hague, Osborne, Blair, Brown, Corbyn, Heseltine, Clark, Mandelson, Clegg, Salmon, Sturgeon, Abbott, A&M, Eagle, Adams, McGuinness and Nesbitt. Now let's look at some of the notable names who want to leave the EU. Johnson, Grayling, Patel, Farage, Gove, Hard, Villers, I.D. Smith, Lilly, Lawson, Lamont, Redmond, Cash, Fox, Goldsmith, J. Ward, Dina, Hoey, Mahmood, Foster. Now I'm looking at these names and my question is, on balance, which group of people am I most likely to trust? Well, that's up to you too. To me, it all boils down to who controls UK freedoms, economy, borders, laws and future. Does the UK really want to be controlled by faceless, foreign, often incompetent bureaucrats with their often elitist lifestyles, endless power and lack of accountability, and pay out approximately 55 million a day for the privilege? If that's what you want to do, you stay in. And admittedly, it is estimated about half of this 55 million a day comes back to the UK by way of grants and foreign payments. But these always come with huge strings and red tape attached. I have to mention this. In this whole EU in-out debate, I'm left wondering why millions of UK citizens and soldiers sacrificed all and died in the First and Second World Wars. If those freedoms of democracy, self-determination and independence are going to be handed over to the EU now. The EU already decide what we can do on a whole range of subjects like who can be deported and what light bulb we can use. If this is their interference now, what will it not be like in 10 years' time? And I have watched TV debates and many commentators seem to be saying nobody knows if it will be better to leave the EU or not. Nobody knows. I do know that if we leave the EU, and I've already said this, we take back control of our economy, borders, laws, and we hold on to approximately 55 million a day that heads from the UK to the EU. Nobody knows. UUP leader Mike Nesbitt tells us that we and our farmers will be better off financially by staying in the EU. Perhaps Mr Nesbitt needs to look at the bigger picture. The EU is not merely about financial arrangements or trade agreements, it is about sovereignty. Under the EU diktat, if things proceed the way they're going, Stormont and indeed Westminster will be reduced to little more than county councils, whose sole purpose will be to rubber stamp EU rules and regulations. The EU isn't a business transaction. Leaving isn't about money or about jobs. It is about governing yourself, going out on a limb, going it alone if necessary, rather than being subject to someone else's diktat or being someone else's servant or subject. Lord King, ex-bank chief of UK, branded the EU project a disaster zone that's dominated by the Germans. He said Germany's rise to power has created enormous tensions in Europe. Tory grandee and ex-Chancellor Lord Lawson recently called the EU something close to an economic disaster zone. Iceland's Prime Minister Sigmundur Gulliksson gave a similar warning over Germany and Mrs Merkel's domination of the EU. The Iceland PM has seen his country's economy soar outside the EU, and he said, when it comes to the big stuff, the decisions are made by two and increasingly one country. Now, just at the bottom here is the entire argument in a nutshell. Here's the entire EU debate in 9 words. Do you want to be a servant of Brussels? And quite frankly, from what I have seen of Brussels and the shambles that's going on there, and we only have to look at the 6 o'clock news, well, I vote out. Now, it's up to you, whatever way you want to vote, but there's my opinion for what it's worth.